Braylon, I got one player.
What's the player you got
that has come into camp and completely gone next level? And I want your expertise on this. To me, Amon-Ra St. Brown has gone next level. He just looks like he is going to be top 9, top 10 guy this year. I mean, his stats alone last year, just the pure statistics alone, touchdowns notwithstanding, all top 10 in every category you can imagine last year for wide receivers. But he just looks like a guy that I don't know, could be the MVP of this team.
He's definitely in shape to be the MVP of this team. And if you're talking about a team that can go to the NFC Championship, Ryan, which we both believe they can, a couple things fall their way. You're MVP of that team. That means you're an all-pro caliber type player.
No doubt about it. Yeah, and at the end of the video, don't put the video up anymore because I think it mutes the mics when it goes up. But the trash talking, as somebody points out, at the end of the play in practice.
Yeah.
You know, it's an attitude from Amon-Ra St. Brown that he plays with, an attitude of, I'm better than you, we're going to beat you, and guys feed off that.
What you see a lot of that too, which I like, is Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't a guy that was drafted in the first round like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. And the only reason I point that out, it seems that the higher the draft pick, the more buddy-buddy they are with other DBs and other players, or in basketball. Everybody in the first round seems to be on the buddy-buddy system. So that's why I like that Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's not buddy-buddy with the guys over there with the New York Giants. He wants to show you, look, you come in and sit forward field, this is our team, this is what I do. I make plays like this on you all day. I like that back talk, because right now at this era, people don't talk stuff like that. So to see that in preseason of all things, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to – remember, I always say he reminds me of like a Hines Ward. Like, one thing about Hines Ward, when you played against him, I didn't play defense, so I didn't have that problem. But you knew you played in a game when you played against Hines Ward. He was going to be safeties up. He was going to be DBs up. He was going to catch passes over DBs, catch touchdowns. He was going to block linebackers. It didn't matter. After you played the Steelers and Hines Ward, you knew you were in a fight. Amon-Ra St. Brown's like the same guy to me. After you play in a game against him, you know you're going to have been in a fight.
You know, Amon-Ra St. Brown, too, is a guy that loves football and loves to get better at football. And Dan Campbell pointed this out, and he gave all the credit to Brad Holmes. I believe it was yesterday at the press conference. They all seem to run together to me, but he gave all the credit to Brad Holmes in acquiring a type of football player, not just talented guys, but talented guys who love to play football and who are consumed with getting better. And that's, you know, not every player in the NFL that's on a roster wants to put the work in. A lot of them are there because they're just damn good at it. They're better than you. They're so talented. They don't need to put all the extra work. Hell, I just watched a Johnny Manziel documentary who had 0 hours of game film on his iPad after he left the facility. Lots of players don't do the extra. It seems like, you know, a lot of players on the Lions do the extra.
You know what? And I'll be full honest with you. Being drafted number 3 overall, playing on, you know, certain situations and having records and accolades and things like that. There are days, Ryan, where you wake up and you're like, I don't feel like doing anything today, and you don't. And you simply don't. You're like, you know what? 4'3", 6'3", third pick overall. I can miss today's practice. And you do, and it turns into more and more. That's the type of attitude you don't want to have, and that's the attitude he by far does not have. And it's good to watch Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's good to see a guy like that be able to lead this team. I'm excited to see what they can do, and just it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to really watch Amon-Ra St. Brown and his team this year, man. Take that next step, if you will.
And Jared Goff, Jared Goff has been doing, I don't know, It's so hard to kind of look. You see what you see in practice. You see what you see on the clips. You see what you see against a playoff team from a year ago against the Giants, and it's hard not to feel really good about these guys. Now, just sitting here talking about practice for the last couple of weeks, sitting here talking about all this stuff, I mean, it almost sounds like we're just handing the Lions the NFC North Division, and certainly they will have they will have to earn that. And they haven't played Kansas City yet. These games don't count, but there's something about the way these guys are going about training camp, including Jared Goff, that makes you feel like this is almost a can't-lose situation this year.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, they're going to lose games. That's a part of it. Last team that went undefeated, it was the New England Patriots, and even they didn't win the Super Bowl. They lost to the Super Bowl. So you're going to lose some games here and there. All we're really saying, Ryan, is we're pointing out what the Lions have done. We're pointing out what you can see. We're pointing out what's on paper. We're pointing out what you see in practice. We're pointing out the people across the country that are jumping on the bandwagon of the Detroit Lions, but we're showing you highlights and comments from the Giants and from other people so to support what we're talking about. We're not saying they're going 17-0 and they're going to win the Super Bowl. All we're saying is they should win the NFC North and they should win the first round playoff game. They should win a playoff game. They should have a home field game, and they should win it based on what we've seen. Jared Goff last year was amazing as a quarterback. I mean, hey, he lost head-to-head to Geno Smith, but I feel like he got screwed in terms of comeback player of the year. That definitely could have been him, and it should have been him. He was amazing last year. The Lions in the last 10 games, you saw what they did. We're making things up. They drafted well as well, and everything we're showing you, you get a chance to see a little bit on film. So I don't think we're making or blowing smoke. We're saying simply what they're going to do.
Did you want to play in the preseason when you played?
Hell no.
No.
Hell
so
no.
These guys don't want to play.
No, I wanted to play 2 games. Like, I didn't want to play at all in the first one because it's usually right after you really get going. Like, you really kind of just get your legs back. And then the first 2 weeks of pre-camp, training camp, and then you have a preseason game, which delays that process again. Hated the first game. Wouldn't mind playing the whole first quarter, the second one, and I like playing the whole first quarter, the third one. Didn't need the fourth one. I didn't need the first.
What about if you had to extrapolate the way you felt about preseason and training camp when you played, when there were 4 games and very few joint practices, to today's game where there's, the Lions have joint practices this week, they have joint practices next week, and 3 preseason games.
This doesn't feel like training camp.
Yeah.
Like what they go through, I would much rather what they go through. And I'm not sliding them and saying that what we went through was more physical, but it was. So what we did was I went through 2 a days, actual 2 a day, 1 a day, followed by 2 a day, followed by 1 a day, followed by 2 a day. Like, we had this schedule for 2 weeks. And then you had a little bit of let down here, a little bit of let back, ease back a little bit once it got going. But we got after it, man, for the better part of end of July through the end of August to Labor Day weekend. We got after it. You were so tired by the time the season starts. Everybody's first game is sluggish. You're always going to see some amazing highlights because somebody was fresh and they're going to get off in that first week, and you'll see a lot of guys that still have those camp legs. That's what it's called, those camp legs. But the way they do camp now, they don't have those camp legs. But they do get a lot of injuries early on in the year, and that's a lot of things we didn't have. But I'd rather their schedule because we hit a lot.
Yeah, and it almost feels too like the reps that they got this week in practice are every bit as important as reps you get or don't get in the game tomorrow. And conversely, again, when you do this again next week with the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's a Saturday game. You'll play them. You'll host them in practice a couple of times. And,
It's purposeful work.
Yeah.
Like, it's purposeful work. It's work against another team. It's a couple of days. You get in, you get out. You have a day off. You regroup. You talk about it. You have the game. Like, it's purposeful work. And you're not putting in a lot of it seems like a lot of practice for nothing, like practice over and over and over and over again. It's good to switch it up.
Yeah, I'm not going negative on the Lions. There's enough places for that if you want, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But until they give me something to be negative about, it's all positive from me. This is a different football team, and it just feels like that every aspect about this football team feels different.
Here's a question for you, Ryan.
Yep.
If the Lions start off 0-2, will you panic?
No.
You won't panic if they start off 0-2?
I won't panic.
Okay.
I don't think they will panic.
Not the question.
But the question is, I won't panic. Because this schedule feels like it eases up, specifically after those first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I will promise you I won't panic unless it's a situation where I feel like Dan Campbell has some terrible clock management or something that I just can't get past. But
yeah, if they're 0-2 in 2 good games, I won't panic at all. But if they lose that first one and then against in a good one and then Seattle they get their ass kicked, I'll be nervous.
Yeah,
I would be nervous if it happened like that.
Right.
Yeah.
No doubt.